My name is Philip, but you can call me Phil. I'll be your guide for today. Welcome to Warsaw. First time to Warsaw?
Yes.
Oh, somebody been here before, so I cannot tell you whatever I want. That's very good to know, that's very good to know. You know, the famous Polish pianist, so I'll tell you more about his life here in Warsaw as well as in Paris. Then again, city center, two sides of the Vistula river, then Unknown Soldier Monument. After this, we'll skip the old town for a while. We'll not miss it, we'll skip it, because first we'll go to the former Jewish ghetto area. You know, socialism, it never worked, and it will never work, because there are some people who are willing to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go for a jog, then work long hours, and there are some people who are willing to enjoy beer from early morning to late afternoon watching cartoons. So it might be difficult to put people on the same level, but at the beginning, I stress at the beginning, after war, it worked perfectly fine. And there is a lot of remains of the Soviet period in the city of Warsaw, especially as it was redone in this period. One of them is the highlight of the city of Warsaw, you can see in the downtown, which is the Palace of Culture and Science. Very characteristic building, one of the symbols of Warsaw. You can see it in front of us on the right hand side of the clock tower. Done in the year 1955. By Lev Rudnev, the Russian architect. We are lucky that we have one, because in Moscow there were 7. It was the most important building. Now, in the downtown, you can see a lot of highlights. Left of it, the one with the 5 UFOs landing on a spire, this is the Warsaw. This is the tallest office building in European Union, as you can understand, designed by Lord Foster. The additional 22 skyscrapers in the city of Warsaw. Some of them they are in progress, some of them they are about to be starting. So as you can understand, the downtown of the city of Warsaw changed completely. Wide boulevards, yes, 3 lanes one way, 3 lanes the other, 2 for trams. This house was built after the Second World War, because after the war we were able to do whatever we wanted to the city, especially thanks to Uncle Joe. Do you know of Uncle Joe? You know, we had Uncle Sam, you had Uncle Sam, we had Uncle Joe as a competition. Joseph Stalin insisted to call him Uncle, so like in a Godfather, an offer he can't refuse. So he suggested that the roads should be made like this to make it easier for the traffic, because traffic will be vibrant. There will be so many cars, the good Soviet times are coming. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you were willing to buy the car, it was possible, of course. You were going with a suitcase of money to the dealership. On the one side we had General Jaruzelski, who was kind of Polish-Russian general. On the other side we had Lech Walesa, you know, the leader of Solidarity, Nobel Prize winner for peace. And then in between, cookies and coffee. In the afternoon, vodka. You know, the Polish business talk in 90s, of course. Unlike to other countries just struggling with independence until today, like Ukraine, we had a very peaceful turnover. And as I mentioned before, since 89 till today, we came a really long way. And symbol of 21st century prosperity, I guess, you can see by the area which we are coming closer to. First of all, the mall. I very rarely show the shopping centers, but this one on the right I think is worth mentioning, especially with Louis Vuitton outside. Always looks beautiful. So you can see a very nice mall called Witkatz, open till 10 p.m. today in front of us, which is a very nice place called 3 Crosses Square. What I mean, a little bit vain place, but on the other side, beautiful, because the church on the left hand side called Saint Alexander's Church. What is interesting, this church is not really named after the saint, it's named after a Russian Tsar, Alexander I, who was a viceroy of Poland during the 19th century. So 1 cross is there, 2 more on the red pillars on the left hand side, a 3 Crosses Square, kind of a Ferrari place. By the way, your hotel is 1 block away right of it, yes, so you can take a walk here if you'd like in the afternoon. And it's the 3 Crosses Square is kind of an introduction to this street called Uyaz Avenue. Uyaz Avenue, extremely special street for a city of Warsaw, never destroyed during any war times, it's 100% original. You can see how beautiful Warsaw used to be. Now it's also beautiful, but in a little bit different way. Nazi Germans, when they entered the city of Warsaw, they established 2 districts at the beginning. Nazi German district, here we are. Everything else was a Polish district. No, Polish district, November of 1940, divided into a Jewish ghetto, 3 districts in the city of Warsaw. Nazi Germans, they said that this street is very similar to all small German villages. So I don't see any similarities. This is the place the richest of the richest of Polish used to stay, but you couldn't say no to the Nazi Germans. Swiss embassy now. Cola and chewing gum. So have it in mind. Now, of course, it's a little bit different. Yes, we are good friends, and it is mostly owned by the state until today. Unless you come, you can prove the relationship between you, previous owner, you two Polish governments. Very difficult, time-consuming, but Chopinski Palace, I would say the nicest palace in the downtown of the city of Warsaw. Now it's an Amber Room restaurant and a business center club. Beautiful building on the right-hand side. Then, not bad, on the right also, the Ministry of Justice. During the Second World War, Wehrmacht SS headquarters. Because you know what Nazi Germans did? They did a very smart thing. They chased away Poles. Okay? SS officers, not the Wehrmacht, not Gestapo, SS officers, the worst kind of animals. They're coming from a nice country called Belgium, 33,000 of them, additional 22,000 from the Netherlands. It's not an obvious thing. Overlooking the army, so he's making all the key strategic decisions. Second of all, he has a right to block certain House of Parliament regulations, so he's like a valve to the government, and he does shopping. Recently he was in America shopping, and he bought F-35 fighter jets for $8 billion. Good deal for you. For us, I hope we'll never use them. Then, this year he's in America shopping, and he bought Abrams tanks for another close to $8 billion. Good deal for you, for us, I hope we'll never use them. Now we have a man, Mr. Mateusz Morawiecki. Very interesting guy, because Mateusz, he used to be a director of a Santander Bank, Spanish bank chain in Poland. He was kind of a god of it in Poland. Then he fired himself and he became to be a prime minister. So, sometimes it's better to be a prime minister, the director of a huge corporate bank, Mr. Mateusz Morawiecki, and of course Andrzej Duda as a president. About the House of Parliament, I'll tell you more a little bit later on when we'll get to the House of Parliament. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going closer to the park, Lazienki Park, in which we should take a short walk. Or Russian army for another 25 You've done a better job at the worship than he was about to do. So we took his heart out of his body, which is happening all the time. Then his sister smuggled it through halfway to your hotel from the old town, so you can decide to walk back to there. There was a rumor that it might be gone because of the war destruction. Exactly, not mentioning Chicago, where everything is connected to Polish people, so all the street names, everything is Polish. On the left-hand side, a Council of Ministers and the Prime Minister office. Before we skip it, because I don't want to skip it, Mateusz Morawiecki is working very hard here. let's hope, the Prime Minister. Let me take a seat and let me tell you more. His nickname was Father of American Artillery. He was fighting for a number of years in America, and in America he left the baby which until today is called the West Point Academy. You know West Point? Okay?
Yes.
Designed by Tadeusz Kościuszko. And then as Polish pianist, statesman, good friend to President Woodrow Wilson. Let's begin with the fact that he was a genius pianist, really a genius pianist. Out of playing piano, he was making very good money, good of Poland. Then, during the Versailles Treaty, he suggested his friend, Woodrow Wilson, American president of course, to include our Polish case in his prime minister in the history of Poland, Minister of Foreign Affairs for 2 terms. He retired in Florida. Where else? With his third American wife, happy guy. On the right hand side you can see him sitting in the park surrounded by red roses, symbol of love to his homeland. Very nice statue of his Ignacy Jan Paderewski. So when he passed away, he was buried in Arlington Cemetery. Early 90s to the Arch Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, which we'll see hopefully today. The statue of his opposite side of the American Embassy. And you know, when the grand opening happened, the ribbon was cut by Lech Walesa. Warsaw Uprising 44, about which I'll tell you more later on. PW sign you can see in my chest, for example, or you can see all over the city of Warsaw, stands for Poland is fighting, Polska walcząca, or Warsaw Uprising, Powstanie Warszawskie. So you can see the symbol all over the city of Warsaw, Poland in general, everywhere. In front of us, Polish House of Parliament. Now on the left hand side, we say that this building on the left looks like a circus for a reason. Sometimes it's more powerful than 1,000 words. On the left, French Embassy. Interesting construction, let's put it that way. On the right, your good friends, neighbors, Canadian Embassy. Plain, simple, modern, and I would say simply nice because of it on the right hand side, the Canadian Embassy. You know, during the Industrial Revolution times, he was really a genius in everything, in a business. He was a Jewish gentleman from a city called Łódź, and this on the right was his Warsaw residence. They are staying, you know how it is, very similar all over the world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the Three Crosses Wall. On the right, one more time, the Ronald Reagan statue. On the left, the American Embassy, you can say. See you one more time, and in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, buildings here, as I mentioned before, they are original. And you can see a lot of remains, even of fights of the Second World War. On the right hand side you can see the building with the 4 pillars. And if you look close on the pillars you can see bullet holes. The bullet holes are left not because we are lazy in Poland, in case you wonder. No, we are hardworking people. And also the building itself was sandblasted recently, so it wasn't really an expensive thing to do. But things like this are left alone, just to remember what we had to go through for our freedom. Live with the history. You know, history is history. You cannot change it, we can just learn from it. But process were still with the bullet holes, just to remember what we had to go through for our freedom. In front of us on the right hand side, a small building behind a courtyard. Very nice palace. This is the Institute for Blind and the Deaf People. Oh, that's nice, we have them all over the world. But this one I always consider worth mentioning, because it was the first Institute for Blind and Deaf People in Europe, established by Polish priest Jacob Falkowski. So I always consider it worth mentioning that first Institute for Blind and the Deaf was in my city of Warsaw, which is a very interesting thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll turn right and we'll go through the Powiśle district all the way across the Vistula River. But on the way, you can see in front of us, now on the left hand side, the Stock Exchange Market in the 21st century. You can see the main headquarters of it on the left hand side. Well, the Stock Exchange is doing very well for the circumstances. Last morning along the Vistula River or one of the parks. Have a beer or coffee in one of the beach bars. Yes, we'll see, of course, in a second. Some of them, they are staying in the modern buildings in front of us on the left. Some of them, they are staying in an ugly block of flats we have here also. Some of them, they are staying in the pre-war 20s and 30s modernist buildings, which are never destroyed during the war times. And in Warsaw, in a matter of architecture, you can get confused very, very, very easily. Because the commonest buildings, you can see, for example, in front of us on the left hand side. It's very simple, no decoration whatsoever, but these buildings were based on 20s and 30s modernist buildings that we have plenty of in the city of Warsaw, so you cannot afford it. And that's rather correct. I'll tell you the real estate prices, especially in this particular area, that we'll be going through a little bit later on, and you'll see what I mean. But also in Warsaw, you can see a lot of construction and a lot of progress. Yes, even recently, I was talking to my friend, tour director, who's coming to Warsaw very often, every second week really, and he said that he's really impressed by Warsaw. Doski, good friend to Napoleon. When he was here, he honored the title of Marshal of the French Army to Mr. Poniatowski, so very interesting personality. The bridge dates back to the year 1922, and it was never destroyed during the Second World War, just over the Vistula River, but everything else is original, so you can see the suspension and everything else original from this 1922. So let's go on and get on it, and let's have a nice view of the National Stadium. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you can feel a little bit like I'm on a roller coaster. You'll see how it looks like. Now we'll turn right and we'll go up the bridge all the way to see the National Stadium and the roundabout of George Washington. Okay, 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. We are sorry for inconvenience of the braking, but it's a bus who decided to stop. Why not? Okay. Vistula River, Wisła, right and left. It's floating all the way from the right-hand side. That means Tatra Mountains, Krakow, south of Poland. You'll be traveling there tomorrow. It's 200 miles straight line to right, okay? And left, Gdańsk in the Baltic Sea, another 200 miles to the left. Vistula, you can see how nice it is with the boulevards along it. Then down below on the right you can see the beach. Can you see the beach, ladies and gentlemen? The beach. Okay. Recently, National Geographic made a ranking of the most beautiful beaches in the city centers in the world, and this one is number 5 in a city center in the world. Oh, silence is golden. I appreciate it. No, my reaction was, seriously? I was reading the article like 3 times. I was waiting for this twist in the story, but no twist. Okay, how can you compare it to Copacabana? How can you compare it to South Beach in Miami? But I don't know what they were doing in those bushes, but it had to be top 5 in a city center in the world, no doubt about it. The roundabout in front of us is named after George Washington, you know, the American president. I was reading some rankings about the American presidents, and because I wanted to know who you like, who you don't like, and in most of the cases, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, they are switching the first and the second place. Yes, and you can see his bust, his torso, in front of us, next to Rossmann. Rossmann, kind of a CVS that you have. Yes, we have Rossmann, so if you want to have something from CVS, you go to Rossmann, you buy the same things. On the right, George Washington's bust. Then, ladies and gentlemen, in front of us, Skaraszewski Park. George Washington's roundabout. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the National Stadium you can see in front of it. And this is the flag of the colors of the flag of the city of Warsaw. 2012. Yes, when it was built for 2012 Cup of. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll turn left and we'll go through the beautiful Swietokrzyski Bridge, and the nickname of it is Millennium Bridge, which is that's a nice view, no? Even the bridge is nice. I'm a great fan of this view. You can see right here the suspension. Okay, off we go. The downtown of the city of Warsaw, you can see ahead of us. Of course, I told you about Warsaw, you know, the 5 UFOs landing on a spire designed by Lord Norman Foster, the tallest office building in Europe. It was built only during the COVID period, you know, so it was like 3 years and it's done. So that's really a quick pace. Palace of Culture and Science, Złota 44 apartment building designed by Daniel Lipskin, which is the tallest apartment building in Europe also, and right of it, Intercontinental Hotel with the highest situated swimming pool in Europe, so a lot of highest situated, highest buildings. On the right, you can see the bridge. Can you see the bridge on the right? Yes. And then left of it, you can see the steep roof of the building. This is the Arch Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, which we'll hopefully see from the inside. Then the Royal Castle, the Clock Tower. beautiful boulevards with some cafeterias, with restaurants, floating bars you can see right there. Also, you can see the kind of a broken building, which is the Nikolai Copernicus Science Center. Nikolai Copernicus, this famous Polish astronomer, who was the first one who said that this is the Earth that is moving around the Sun, not the Sun around the Earth. Inspiration for Galileo speaks for itself. So science center of his, you can see on the right hand side, is not only for children, in case you wonder. If there is a slight interest in you in the science, it's a really nice place. But Powieśle district that we saw a second ago was so-so. This part of Powieśle is really booming. In front of us on the right, on the other side of the street, you can see some construction. Of course, fancy apartment buildings all over, and there is a huge renaissance in Warsaw, a number of things, because this is one of 3 industrial zones turned into these culture centers. Vodka Factory on the other side of the Vistula River, next to the zoo that you probably know from Zookeeper's Wife. Then we have Northern Factory, which is on the other side of the city center. A lot of progress in the city of Warsaw. Also, not really the ones who are doing the minimum wage of $300–400 per month, as you can understand. And they can enjoy the beautiful surroundings of the area. And Nikolai, the Frederick Chopin's museum, which is just in front of us. Like, you can see the brick suspension of the terrace, Ostrogotsky Palace at the top. Of Chopin, his music, his work, his dedication to music in general. You can see it in front of us on the left hand side, very nice museum of his, but this is a lot of things connected to Chopin is here. So the glass building in front of us, this is the National Institute of Frederick Chopin, and in the background on the left you can see the University of Frederick Chopin, Musical University of course, so 3 in 1 like a shampoo. Now we'll see a brand new monument connected to Polish Solidarity. Solidarity, the movement. And Solidarity, in my opinion, is a very interesting you can make a very interesting psychological study about it, because you don't know Polish people. Zbyszek, Greg, myself, we are Polish, and we are very nice people. And Solidarity, look, from 70s till mid-90s, we were united. On the left, a very nice monument of Solidarity with the Gary Cooper in the background. Can you see Gary? Okay, what film? Still waiting.
High Noon.
High Noon, of course, thank you. So what you do in High Noon? You kill or get killed. And this is a reproduction of the original poster that we had in Poland before the first independent elections on the 4th of June 1989. Gary Cooper was having a voting card with Solidarity on it. Kill or get killed. Across the Vistula River, you can see the letter M on the right and the left. This is the entrance to metro, subway, tube, called differently all over the world. We have 2 lines of subway. One across the Vistula River, it's 11 stations. The one along the Vistula River, it's 21 stations. 43 minutes to get from one and to another. It's not very impressive, I know, but we started the construction of 8 lines of subway. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 lines of subway. The same second, the same moment in the year 1936. So if not for the Second World War, we would have a normal subway. Now, of course, we have a tram system that you probably notice is like, on the ground. It's all over the city of Warsaw, and it's a less big network as in London or Moscow, but of course London, Moscow, it's underneath. Then in front of us, there is a very nice building with the 2 flags at the top, with the Warsaw, Warszawa at the entrance. This is the Prudential Building, so-called, Prudential Insurance Company. In 22, they did it as a headquarters. Building designed by Stefan Bryło with the metal frame, like you did in New York, for example. This, when it was done, it was the tallest building in Europe, 2nd largest in the world after the Sears Towers in Chicago. This is the Art Gallery, and this is how it's supposed to look like because of our heritage, yes, and the fights which took place on this street. On the left-hand side, Ethnographic Museum. So if you'd like to learn more about the Polish folk dresses and folk things in general, on the left is the best place for you. On the left, the building with a huge dome. This is the Holy Trinity Church, Protestant church, on the left-hand side. My favorite building in the Warsaw number 2, you can see in front of us on the left, Zachęta building, which is a modern art gallery right now. Very nice building designed by Stefan Schiller in the year 1922. What is interesting, it was not destroyed during the war. It's original from this 22. Right here, it's named after Marshal Josef Pilsudski. You know, the eyebrow guy at the top of the park. The most important things, yes, eyebrow guy. So the most important things in our Polish heritage is always connected to this square on the left. But let's begin with the monument on the left. You can see the staircase to heaven, as I call it. This is the monument dedicated to the plane crash that you probably have heard of. President, First Lady, and 94 other well-educated, bright-minded people lost their lives in the plane crash in Smolensk, which was a great tragedy for everybody. Because I don't know if you realize this, but in this plane which crashed, there were people from like House of Parliament, but of course, but also some other people. But from the House of Parliament, the members, they were from left, middle, and right. Everybody was there. If I would be invited, I would go there also. Everybody would go. And then a great tragedy happened for everybody already 12 years ago. No, bad time passes quickly. Then, of course, you'll see Lech Kaczynski, the president who lost his life in the plane crash. He's just in front of us on the left a little bit. When they will turn, he'll be on the right-hand side. The building in front of us with the round corners, if you can call it like this is the headquarters of Polish Army on the right. President Lech Kaczynski on the right, monument dedicated to the plane crash on the left. But the white remains of something. This is the unknown soldier monument, the remains of the Saxon Palace, which was blown up by the Nazi Germans, and the fence you can see is the reconstruction of it. We are starting it right now. The cross on the left, the symbol of the first mass during the first pilgrimage of John Paul II. On the right, very nice hotel, Europejski Hotel, the chain of Raffles. Do you know of Raffles? If not, you maybe know the drink called Singapore Sling. If not, you have to try the Raffles, very fancy chain of hotels. On the left, Metropolitan, designed by Lord Norman Foster, the British architect, the second baby of his. You can see, if you look straight, you can see offices, but if you look from the side, you can see marble. So it was his vision to melt in this very characteristic section of Warsaw with the National Opera House on the left-hand side. National Opera House is really a huge building. It has two chambers, opera and the drama. Both of them are for 2,000 people each, but still the Opera House has the biggest movable stage in Europe. So if you're interested in performance, you can try your luck because it's always sold out. But the building itself, classical style, designed by Antonio Corazzi, the Italian architect, 1810. My favorite building in Warsaw, number 3, you can see on the left-hand side of the clock tower. It's really beautiful. Former town hall of the city of Warsaw, now a city bank corporation headquarters. That's why you could see a Polish and American flag on it. I will turn right. We'll get closer to the old town. As I mentioned before, we'll have a quick view on the old town. We'll not skip it, we'll miss it for a sec, and then we'll be back after we'll see the former Jewish ghetto area, former primates of Poland residence, and now we'll turn. Very good monument. Lady with the big sword you will see in the background, and if I was about to describe Warsaw in one photograph, this will be the view. There will be a monument, kind of a beautiful palace, ugly block of flats and a skyscraper. All of the Warsaw in one photograph. This is it on the left hand side. Now I guess you know what I mean. Yes, Nike, the goddess of victory, he wore. Very good monument. But ladies and gentlemen, a lot of foreigners, I've noticed that you get confused with the Warsaw heritage of the Second World War very easily. Because in Warsaw, during the Second World War, we did have not one, but two uprisings. Uprising number 1, so-called the Jewish Ghetto Uprising. The first uprising in Europe against Nazi Germany, held by the Jewish people. Nazi, they were not mad. They were furious. They introduced 2 new policies, which were never introduced into any place in the world. Policy on. No prisoners, hostages taken. You were captured, you were shot in the head. Then one building after another, set on fire, blown up with explosives. Ghetto ceased to exist 1943. They never came. They were, even before they were expected. Never proceeded forward Warsaw. Instead of 2 weeks, 2 months of fights. 150,000 civilians who really slaughtered by different Nazis in different districts. Cheesecake Palace, the oldest of the oldest documents are held in here, like Polish Constitution on the map. Then on the right, Supreme Courthouse, designed by Marek Budzinski. But we've made it, even though that a number of Warsawers after Warsaw Uprising 44, it dropped it down to 2,000 people. Yes, I'm not mistaken, 2 and 3 zeros, 2,000 people. They were so-called Robinsons. Like, you know, Robinson Crusoe was on the island. Spielman from the pianist, he was in the attic. Such people, 2,000 people.